TJ, the Wheel Drill, coming at you live again with Uzi Options. I did not see my messages on X. If not, we could have just done this as part of the initial stream. But here we are, Uzi. Appreciate you, my man. Let's talk some technicals because fundamentally, I feel like Palantir is so overvalued, it's comical. I feel like Tesla is so overvalued, it is comical. But that being said, Uzi, I've been in this game long enough to know the charts don't give a shit about the fundamentals most of the time. So,
100%. They say the
so what are the charts saying, Uzi? Talk to me.
So let's take a look at Palantir first, because that's the little guy compared to Tesla, if you want to say.
Yeah, but it is a big position because I did sell 500 contracts for context. I have a short strangle. I have the short put at 110. I have the short call at 150. I don't own any of these shares yet. There is money to buy the 50,000 shares because it's 500 contracts. It would really suck up a lot of our buying power, but it is an option that we have. And so 110 on the put, 150 on the call. I looked at the charts a couple of days ago, and I was like, this thing ain't getting to 150 by 620, but I've been wrong a lot on Palantir. I have been wrong a lot. So I put a real big bet, and I'm like, I'm going to go make $230,000 in 30 days on Palantir by agreeing to buy 50,000 shares at 110. I think the market loves this stock so much, I don't think it's going to 110. But I also think that just fundamentally, and again, I'm talking fundamentals here, 150 is just absolutely ludicrous. But what do the charts say?
I agree. And that's the thing with fundamentals versus technicals. And they, we know the saying, right? The market and a stock can be irrational longer than we can stay solvent. The good news with you is you have a nice size account. So you have extra wiggle room that's, others might not. In the case that it starts to get exuberant and crazy on the upside on your short 150, but from a technical standpoint, this is a beautiful bullish pattern.
Yeah,
it's as overvalued as it is. It can remain that way and get even more overvalued, right? Like you just said. So I see a bullish pattern just from looking at it, and I'm going to bring over some drawing tools just to talk to the crowd and the audience.
Real quick, Uzi, it's overvalued. Today,
right?
10 years from now, this might be the steal of the century.
Correct.
With the trajectory that this company is on, right? So just to give it a little context, this company is a generational company, in my opinion. It's going to $1 trillion. I don't know when, and I've been a part of it from day one. We had about a 6-month breakup when it shot up to the 30s the first time. And then I've been out of the stock effectively for about 90 days or so. And then I was like, okay, I see a way to make money with it now, because now it's a trading instrument because I can't get behind the valuation, right? So now I'm like, how can I make money with this stock? I'm like, I can sell short strangles on this thing and make a shitload of money, and that's just as good as owning shares, in my opinion. So now walk me through it. The floor is yours, brother. I got several minutes here. I want you to walk us through this one, and I want you to walk us through Tesla.
Yeah, let me just fix my camera there. So from the technical side, right? Looking at the pattern right off the bat, what I see is the formation of a cup and handle. And I'm a big patterns guy. I'm a big technical guy. So this to me stands right out, and it's clear as day. Now, sometimes when they're as clear as day, they have a potential for failing, because if everyone sees the same thing, it can almost kill it. But in this case, it's a beautiful cup and handle in the works, right? So now we still could have a little bit more back and filling, and with the handle portion, that should generally take about 2 to 4 weeks for it to form. Okay, any longer than that, and then you have the likelihood of a breakdown. But in this case, it looks like it's adhering to the perfection of, let's say, the pattern, meaning you've got the cup, you've got the handle. I guess we're in about week 2 of the handle, and then the move would be up And we're going to go through the level on where it could get to. But, that's not the only pattern I'm seeing. The other pattern I see is a little mini head and shoulders bottom here, with the shoulder being a little baby shoulder. And when you get a little baby shoulder, like when this right shoulder doesn't match up with about the same time and distance of the left shoulder, it means that the buyers couldn't wait any longer. There was such a need to own this stock that, the buyers took over the control. And that's why you have this kind of a shoot up like that. So now it's just, it's backing and filling a little bit. There is lower volume, as you can see. So the volume's drying up as it creates that handle. So this is a picture perfect cup and handle. And the typical move out of this is, let me just get my drawing tools again, is how it's not typically done is, here's basically your neckline or the top of the cup. And then we're going to take this distance here and we're going to expand it to the upside. So that generally will give you the equal move. Okay, but I like to do it with Fibonacci's. And so if I'm going to look at this with the Fibonacci's, I'm going to come in, let me grab the Fibonacci tool. Okay. There's a lot of ways you can use your Fibonacci's. Some people use different ways of doing it. For this particular instance, I'm going to use it like I would do it if I'm doing a quick one on my own and I'm about to do a trade on something. So I've got two levels now on the upside, the 127 and the 161.8. Now the 127 fib lines up at about 141, and then the second is the 161 that lines up at about 161. So TJ strike is right almost smack dab in the middle. So the first target on the up move would be the 127. So that's a safe spot for TJ's 150 call. Okay. And that would spend a little bit of time typically backing and filling and consolidating before it gets another thrust up to test that 161, which would give TJ enough time, if it does get to this 140 area, to roll up and out that 150 strike call. So, and while he's doing that, he can be rolling up the 110 short put, bringing in more premium as he defends that 150 short call. But from the technical perspective, this is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing more bullishness coming, regardless of the technicals, of the fundamentals, like we just said. And, even when we had the worst of the market recently with the tariffs and with the negativity, we only fell down here to about 60, maybe 67. So, I mean, I'm not saying that we're going to get that low again, but that was the worst case scenario with the market sell-off, tariffs, the uncertainty in the future. And this company, which works with defense and with the governments, I mean, and with this Trump administration, I think that they're going to see a lot more contracts. So I do think it's going to have not only the technicals, but the fundamentals are going to start to kick in too with more contracts and stuff like that. But I'm not the fundamental guy. So, but I do see that happening with the government spending on defense.
Agreed. I think there's more risk to the downside than the upside right now, because we still have some uncertainty with the tariffs. We have uncertainty with inflation, with interest rate cuts, all of the things that could really make the entire market, go on a face ripper rally, right? So I think that that's the reason I felt very comfortable at 150. Not to mention, what is like the RSI saying? What are those things saying? Like, is this stock overbought, or is it just, it's certainly not oversold. I don't see it being at 30, right? So
that's the thing. It reached overbought a couple of weeks ago here, and it only got to about maybe 72, 71, and it came back down, and now it's at 57. So it's at a nice reasonable level. It's not overbought.
It's neutral.
It's definitely not overbought.
Yeah,
pretty neutral. Yep, neutral. Now the MACD, that's riding nice.
What time frame are you on when you do this right here?
So this is the daily, and that's a good point. Let's take a look at the weekly. That's a good point, TJ. Let's take a look at the 3-year weekly. Now, the weekly, obviously, this is going to magnify certain things, especially when you look at this move up here. This is kind of a pretty parabolic move, if you want to call it. It went from the 20s, and I remember selling puts on this, but when I was trading selling puts on this was in the 20s, and then again in the 40s. But it went from the 20s on the weekly right up, to 125-ish, 124, backed off a little bit to the 50-day moving average, So even in all that market turmoil, it never penetrated the 50-day moving average. So this is one of the strongest stocks in the stock universe right now, really. And it's got the defense. It's in the defense sector, which again the U.S. wants to not only update a lot of their program software and weapons, but this company is one. It's on the leading edge of technology. So now we're seeing what we have here is an inside week from the prior week. So that's another bullish candle. And we're looking at bars, but let me change it over to candles. It's an inside candle. Even though it's red, it doesn't really make a difference. It's inside the previous green weekly. So this is just a consolidation time frame for it. It's garner up some more energy when you have inside weeks, inside days. You get more energy. The buyers and the sellers are. The buyers can't push it up through the highs, and the sellers can't push it down through the lows of the prior week. So you've got energy building up. Now you might get another week of inside trading, and then the breakout out of that. And again, just from the eyeballing of it, you can see on the weekly we even have this cup, and it's working on its handle. So it's bullish on the daily, it's bullish on the weekly. And I guess while we're at it, let's just
this stock's a monster, bro. This stock is a monster.
It's a monster. I'm just trying to go to the monthly. Let's go to the monthly for just a quick second. Let's take a look at the monthly. Yeah, the monthly. The monthly really puts you out there with the parabolic move. So we're working on now another breakout on the monthly. At some point, it'll probably have a multi-month consolidation time frame where it feels a little ugly on the daily because it'll be pulling back, but the weekly and the monthly will be still intact, and it'll just it'll do one of these where it just starts to just back and fill, creating the typical bull flag, which we all know is one of the bullish patterns we look to trade. A nice pullback like that on a monthly. A couple of months down, 2 to 3 months to the sideways downward, and then resume up. So it's bullish all around,
which is healthy for the stock. Like you see this big green candle right there. If you have 3 or 4 of those in a row, that's not healthy for the stock.
Correct. Totally agree. Yeah, the more that you get of these type of parabolic moves, the more it's going to run out of gas, and the shorts will pile on even more, and then you'll have the shorts selling it and the longs looking for the exit door because now they're afraid that it's gone too much too soon, too far, too fast. But yeah, on all time frames, this is a bullish. It's a bullish buy all the dips type of a chart.
Yeah.
Or and if you're not a person who likes to buy and long shares, it's a great stock to sell premium on, whether it's cash secured puts, put credit spreads. I mean, you can do a lot of different things with this type of a setup.
Yeah. No, I like it. I like it. I'm really hoping that it goes a little bit down just because now I'm excited to potentially own the shares eventually, right? Because I'm not excited at 110. I'd be real excited in that $70-$80 range. So
now on the not to interrupt the TJ, but on a pullback level from using the Fibonacci's, it hasn't even made it yet to the 23.6% level. Yeah. So from the move up from the lows, okay, it has not even had the energy to fall through down to the 23.6. So this is such a strong stock. Buyers are not letting it get to that 23.6, and even if it did get through that, it's still bullish if it gets down to the 23, to the 38.2, which would kind of challenge your 110, but it would be manageable, easily manageable by just, rolling out and down this 110. And you could, at that point, be lowering the 152 just a little bit, or you could leave the 150 alone, because if it does gain some momo to the upside, that 150 could come pretty quickly.
Yeah, because whenever there's a pullback and you're forming like that cup and handle, if you will, it's like a springboard, right? So it's kind of like have you ever seen the long jump? Like the way that it was explained to me. I actually went to a technical chart school in California, in Chicago, And I was sitting there looking at this shit for like a week, right? Going crazy because I just didn't understand it. But the professor that we had was so awesome with his analogies. And he says, whenever there's a bit of a retracement, but it's still an overall bullish pattern, look at it like the guy that's about to run the long jump. So it's the runway. So he's running, but right towards the end, they start gathering themselves for the takeoff, right? So you start gathering themselves, kind of like counting your steps, and then you plant, and boom. And that's kind of like your cup and handle or your bull flag. So you got to be real careful with those moves. The issue is we don't know how long those runways are, right? Like we see the long jump, you see where the board is, so you know that the person has to jump before he gets to that board, but you don't know that here, and that's where it can get very interesting. You can go to previous patterns to see if it's formed it in the past, and then you can see well how many days or weeks it took. Because this is all that you're trying to do with the charts is past performance could theoretically tell you what the future is going to be, but we don't know. We can only look at well, this is what happened last time. The stochastic goes here, the MACD cross, like you get a bullish crossover, a golden cross, whatever the case may be. So you're just looking at that as a historical reference, right? Because these technicals, they're facts. Like this is exactly what the price movement was for all of these weekly, because those are weekly candles, right? They have on there.
Right now we're looking at the daily. Yep.
The
Right
daily,
now the daily.
yeah, 1 year, 1 day. I see it. Yeah, I see it.
Yep. But we had that weekly and the monthly, and they're all in unison. So everything is stacked. You have the 200-day moving average, which is rising, the 50-day moving average, which is rising, and you got the 8 and the 21, which is like I like to use the EMAs. The price is just sticking right by the moving averages. A lot of times when you get the price moving too far away from the 8 and 21, you're going to get a pullback to that level. But and that's what we got. It's doing that from this move up here, and it's just pulling back nice and consolidating nicely. No major moving. Volume is drying up like it's supposed to.
But you see where that 50 days going? Because to me, my 50 and my 200, that's what I use. And the reason I like the 30 days out was because I saw that 50 day was trending up, and then by June the 20th, it was probably going to be approaching that $105, $110 range. So that was going to act like a real nice area right there to help defend the stock from crashing lower. That's why I felt a lot better at 100, but I went ahead and went more bullish because I saw that there was more bullish momentum and positive call skew versus put skew on the open interest and volume, right? Like looking at other stuff that isn't necessarily on here. So I just felt like at some point this line is going to keep trending up, and it just forms a higher level of support down the road.
Yeah, that makes sense. You're right. It's heading on a trajectory right toward that 110 strike level.
Yeah.
So that was pretty good on your end from choosing your short strike. Definitely.
I was more comfortable at 100, but there was not enough juice there. You know what I mean? Because if I did the 100, then I was going to have to do the 140, but I was more nervous to the upside than the downside. So I was like, I'd rather leave money on the table on the short put, or leave money on the table on the short call and get more aggressive with the put, because I feel like there is more risk to the upside than the downside with Palantir right now.
Totally agree. And when I'm structuring a strangle for the room, I do the same thing. I mean, especially on a chart like this, it's such a bullish chart that you can take that little bit of extra gamble on the downside. Bring that put up a little bit. So you can see. What TJ is saying is the distance. Let's say from the price where current price is. Let's say right now up to the call is much longer than the price down to the short put. So you want to take that little bit of a risk by moving your short put closer to the price, getting a nice premium, okay, because all the risk really is to the upside. Yeah, they could come out with something bad, who knows what it might be, but it would be probably a short-lived thing where it might, fall through quickly and then get back up. But in the meantime, you can always roll these puts down and out unless catastrophe hits and the price just, falls all through all type of support levels, which again, it couldn't really even happen during the market turmoil. It never got to the 200 day on the daily. So
yeah, and we have a little bit of time. My wife just messaged me, so I got about 20 minutes. So, guys, when I sold this strangle, I had a thesis in mind, right? My thesis is this stock is overpriced, but I want to figure out how to make money now. But I'm willing to be in this trade like a year, even two, if I need to, keep rolling and expanding. And if for whatever reasons my theory ends up being right, that this thing's going to take a 30 or 40% correction at some point, I want to have collected enough premiums because I was in the strangle. So I made money on the short calls in this case, right? And
mhm.
to where I could eventually take ownership of all these shares, but still have a pretty low adjusted cost basis because I was willing to be in the fire, if you will, long enough to get molded like a diamond, and under all that pressure, so that I could potentially, if I roll this out enough, 6 months a year, with all the premiums that I would have collected, it would be the equivalent of having that $70 or $80 entry point, which is where I exited the shares to begin with, right? And that's the idea, is to go take ownership of not 50,000 shares, but maybe 10 to 15,000 shares with an $80 adjusted cost basis. So that was kind of the game plan, if you will. And I'm willing to roll and expand a year or two to go get all those premiums. But if I happen to be right, and it's a drunk driver, right? Because the share price is like a drunk driver. But if it has those guardrails of 150 and 110, and I hit it, and in 30 days and I make $250,000, then I have a chance to reassess. Then maybe on the next one, instead of 40 wide, maybe I go 50 wide for a little bit more, for to be a little bit more conservative, a little more leeway. Then I might have just gotten into a situation where this becomes a money printer for me. And I don't really care what it does at that point because I'm just managing the guardrails, right? And at
Yep.
50 wide, even with the stock like this, when I can get it to 50 wide, and if I stay within that 30-day time frame, those are huge, huge moves for that stock during that time frame.
Oh
So
yeah,
I feel good about it. We'll see how it plays out, right? We'll
yeah.
see. I'm excited if I have to manage it to the downside. Excuse me one second, my wife. Hey, baby. Yeah, I'm about to get off and then hop in the shower. What time's lunch? Okay, you know where we're going yet? Okay, that's easy. All righty. All right, sounds good. What's up? Yeah, it's in my wallet. All right, bye-bye. Well, that was an expensive call. I got to pay the housekeeper.
Someone's got to pay it.
Everything's all pulling at the very end. You got the $80 for the housekeeper. Shit.
I know the feeling, man. Every Monday I got to do it myself.
No, it's because she saw that I had cash in my wallet. And I never have cash. So we're always like, we have to go pull us out money because we're housekeepers. They don't have cash out. Who doesn't have cash out? This is crazy. So anyway, anyway, we're off track. I appreciate you. Let's go over to Tesla.
Yeah, man. Tesla.
So
So we're
Tesla, I
gonna.
got way to January. I got 8,000 shares of Tesla. I got the 100,000 shares of TSOL. The short put is sitting at 280. I'm extremely uncomfortable on the short put side. Everybody thinks I'm uncomfortable with the short call side. I'm not. I'm uncomfortable on the short put at 280 because I think Tesla, in some ways, is more overpriced than Palantir. And then on the short call, I'm sitting at 450. But everybody's like, they act like Optimus is going to start cleaning your house tomorrow and all this other stuff. The robo taxi, like there's going to be 1 million cars by the end of the month. And I'm like, nah, that'd probably be like 3 years, in my opinion. And I mean, how much does it add to the bottom line? I don't know. Like, I don't know any of that stuff. What I do know is that sales are declining. Revenue is declining, and there's been some brand damage. I do think that it'll all get remedied. It's going to take more than one or two pep talks from Elon Musk to get us going in the right direction. I think that this is a wait and see market with Tesla. They're going to want to see results. There's been a lot of euphoria with this company. This is absolutely my favorite stock and my favorite company by far. But I also live in this thing called planet Earth in reality. I'm not in Mars. I'm not on SpaceX headed to Mars. Like I live in reality. And for what it is right now, it is a very, very frothy company as far as stock price goes. But what does the chart say though? Because I have seen other traders talk about 295 was a very pivotal area. It shot over 295, so that was confirmed, like a bullish confirmation, if you will. And it seems like 350 is kind of the seesaw right now. Like it needs to get and stay above 350 for a while, and then now I have some legit risk to the upside. But if it can't
Yeah.
cross over 350, there's not a whole lot to worry about right now to the upside. But what does Uzi say? Because I don't know those guys. I know you, Uzi. What do you have to say about that?
Let's talk about it, TJ. By the way, I missed. I'm sorry. What is your lower strike?
280 on the put.
All right, let's get that on the chart too, so we can have a visual on everything.
And everybody thinks I'm concerned about the call. I'm not concerned about the call. I'm concerned about the put. Because it's 535 contracts. I was sitting at 250 on the put, but the call started getting away, so I rolled up the put to get a shitload of money. Follow me?
Yep.
But I was a lot more comfortable at 250. Now I'm uncomfortable, but I know that I can also roll it back down if necessary. This is already sitting to January. So this is just a game of rolling up or down right now. I ain't trying to roll out right now, at least not for another 60 to 90 days. So I'm really hoping that Tesla stays under 400, because if it goes over 400, that short call is going to be sitting at like a 60, 70 delta, and that's really going to put a lot of pressure on the account. So that's so. What's the chart telling? What's the chart telling you there?
Yeah. Let's talk about it. So let's rehash a couple of things from I think maybe a month or two ago when we had this discussion on Tesla. What was going on? Let's just take it one step at a time. So we had talked about it when price was making around this area here, this third little, well, not little, this third trip, the triple bottom, because you have one here, and one here. So I would call this the triple bottom. We were talking about it. Hey, everything was negative on Tesla. We had the senator out there bashing Tesla, looking at his phone, laughing every time the price went down.
Oh, yeah.
We had burning of dealerships and, scrap, car keying and everything. But we noted that, hey, price can't get through these lower levels here, which coincide with previous levels of cluster, a cluster of trading in the past, which held as support, where price, traded right out from and broke out to the 488 level. So now we're back at that level. We broke this descending trend line, which served as resistance. Okay, and we broke it out with some good volume getting out of there, as you can see here. Okay, we broke through the 50-day moving average, ran to the 200-day, which it couldn't get through so quickly because there was a lot of resistance there. It pulled back to the 50, as we noted again. These are all from our previous conversations, and then found the energy with some increased volume. And by the way, when MACD crossed above the zero line, and that's a pretty important level, pretty important technical point as well, because price had fallen below the zero line for so long. It finally made it back above it. And we noted that too in our last conversation about it. It was breaking above on the MACD, and that could bring, a lot more buyers in it too. However, there's a lot of different type of technical traders, right? There's the MACD guys. Now, I'm not saying that they have a lot of power, but that was just one more technical tool to add to the bullish side, which it did. Price broke through the 200-day moving average on a gap here, okay, and then ran up. Now, it ran up to an interesting level, which is I think pretty easy to see by all, and that's kind of this horizontal resistance right about here. Actually, let me lower it a little bit. It's a little bit lower. So right about here, and you can see this day here, this candle kind of wicked up in time. I didn't touch it, but tried. So we know we have overhead resistance at this area. But at the same time, what I'm seeing, again, with just by my naked eye glancing, is we've got another one of these familiar cup, and we've got the handle forming, which again, this is a beautifully bullish looking pattern.
Right.
Aside from that, we had a triple bottom, 1, 2, 3, and when it broke, I think this is the area of the 295 that your other technical analyst was talking about. When we broke this neckline, this is called the neckline. Every time it comes up to this point and pulls back, this is the neckline. Once it gets over that area And if I just keep going to the right over here, that probably coincides with about 295. Once we got through that area, we were able to get up to the next level of resistance, which I just erased, which is right here. So now we've got the consolidation channel. You want to call it a channel? I'm going to call it the handle. Okay, it's going to do its thing now. I don't know how long it's going to be, but again, it shouldn't take much longer than 2 to 4 weeks, depending on the pattern. And then before it resumes its breakout, maybe to the upside. Now, TJ's level is nice and far away, up in the 450 level, the 450 range, and it's above. Whoops, hang on, let me erase that. It's above. I need my straight line. It's above the next area of horizontal resistance, which comes into play. Let me just get see what that is. It's about 430. So he's got about a cushion of about 20 points from this resistance pivot here, trend line, to the strike price that he has on his short calls. Now, not saying it can't get through this area, but it's going to take a lot, because all along the way, it has other areas on top of this one to get through. It's got a little one here, and then a little bit of another pivot here. So there are about 3 other levels of resistance up above before TJ's naked call does get challenged. Now, let me go to some Fibonacci's, because this is pretty interesting and cool to see. Where price is sitting right now in conjunction with the Fibonacci. So if we take the swing high of about 488, okay, and we come down to the swing lows, okay, I want you to take note of what's going on. We've got the price sitting right at the pullback, which is a 50% level pullback. So from the swing high to the swing low, price is sitting at and cannot right now get through the 50-day moving average. The 50-day, the 50% Fibonacci level.
Mm-hmm.
Once it does, the typical next point to test would be the 61.8, and that's going to come in at about 383, 385, whatever you want to call it. So the move out of this area, okay, would bring it up to probably the next level, which is the 61.8, where it will try to do its basing pattern, okay, bringing the cup, which is currently a cup right now at this level here, okay, it would then bring the cup and make it a even bigger cup. So the cup, what I'm trying to say is your cup is getting bigger every time price moves up and gets to that next level of resistance. So as the cup gets bigger, so does your potential upside targets. So in time, I do see that 450 level getting challenged. We don't know when. We don't know if it's going to come on news. Is it going to come on contracts or whatever the case may be? But it does look bullish. And you posted, TJ, it's funny, you posted this 300 or 400 to come first. And I think I'm going to lean to the 400 level. I just think this is a bullish pattern. It may close this gap first.
Yeah.
Okay, be close to 300, but I don't think it's going to penetrate 300 to the downside before it gets to that 400 level. I could be wrong, but just from what I'm seeing, once some more volume starts to kick in down below here, and we get some movement up, and especially a market that starts to cooperate when we don't have tariff news that hitting the wires, I think you're going to get a bullish move.
Yeah, so my idea is I'm hoping for this to take at least another 60 days, because then I'm sucking a lot of theta decay from the position, about $15,000 a day right now. And then I want to roll to the right, and I want to go up to at least 500 on the call side, which would be, all-time highs. I think the all-time high was, well, yours says 488, but I think it might have been 513 or something like that. What it really was. So I just feel a little bit more comfortable over there, because I do think that Tesla at some point is gonna, I don't know, it's gonna do what Kathy Woods is saying. That could happen, once robo-taxi starts really impacting the bottom line, and if the energy sector keeps going in the right trajectory, they get back on track with sales in Europe. The semiconductor, not the conductor, the semi truck at some point is going to be on the road in a big way. So Cybertruck is going to start pumping out good numbers. Potentially, there's the Model 2, maybe, or the Model Y revamp, cheaper version. Who knows? So there's a lot of potential verticals there. But
Definitely.
my question again is, this is where I'm stuck, where I'm a fundamentalist more than a technical, right? Is I'm like, okay, that's cool, but when does it actually start affecting the bottom line? Because right now the fundamentals are deteriorating. I know that I kind of shit on financial Jeremy a little bit because he keeps talking about Tesla and he sold out of Tesla. He's made a shitload of money with it. But he did make a video. I saw like 5 minutes of it, and I couldn't argue with any of it as far as the fundamentals were deteriorating for the company. But I also know that news and Elon pumps this stock like nothing I've ever seen before. And what are some huge catalysts that could really put me in a bind to the upside? Let's talk about it. Robo taxi goes off without a hitch.
Yeah.
That's one.
Yep.
China. That's another one.
Yep.
An order for the robot. That's a big one. But I think the biggest one, the biggest catalyst that Tesla could have, and I would pivot and I would buy like $3 million worth of calls to take pressure off the upside. I am prepared to do that, by the way. I'm not an idiot here. Like I've been doing this for a while and I have a game plan. If this happens, I'm gonna do that. If that happens, I'm gonna do this. I'm playing that game all the time. The biggest catalyst is the compensation package for Elon. They lock him in. He has this 25% ownership of the company on paper so that some activist investor can't oust him and stuff. That is the most bullish thing that can happen for Tesla. So that's the stuff that I'm monitoring. Whenever I see, that's why it's not much, but I have added 1,500 shares to the position to de-risk a little bit. I went from 50,000 shares of TSLL to 100,000 shares of TSLL. It ain't much because if you look at the weight, the delta weight of TSLL, even though it's a 2 times leverage, it's about 8%. Like it's about 8%. One share of TSLL is the equivalent of about 8% of Tesla. You know what I mean? Because you got to look at the prices and all that stuff. And I know that one's 2 times leverage and one's just shares, but it takes a lot of TSLL shares for the amount of short calls that I have. Like, how much does it really take? I'd say, oh, man, I'm at 100,000. Easily, I have to be at 250,000. Realistically, to be real comfortable, probably 500,000, and I have to be willing to sell calls on those as well. And every time I sell a successful cover call campaign, go scoop up some shares because then now I'm buying shares with other people's money. I'm talking about buying Tesla shares, not TSOL, because Tesla has the weight that I need, right, to offset the deltas. And I got to do it all before Tesla gets under 400. Why? Because if Tesla starts shooting over 400, there's a lot of margin pressure on the account because now the delta on the short call is going to be in that 50, 60, 70 range, and that is problematic. So I need to build the hedge before Tesla makes this move, if that makes sense. So that's why I have made all of the decisions that I've made in the portfolio was leading up to this particular moment. And I'm also now I feel like I found money over there with Palantir. And the idea is to have successful trade with Palantir, and it's going to fund my continued share purchases on Tesla and Leaps as well. But I don't want to have to buy Leaps because those expire. So I don't want to put myself in a position where I have to be right in a positive direction, and it has to be by a certain amount of time because then now data is working against me. Over here, I got 15,000 that we're collecting on a daily. I'm not so quick to want to give that back. So when I got into this thing, I saw a world where we could have as much as 25,000 shares of Tesla and 250,000 shares of TSOL, and that's it. And then I would just be making a shitload of premiums, and that's kind of what I'm building towards. And it's not recommended. It's not financial advice. This isn't anything I recommend anybody to do, but this is my stock. This is the company that I study more and more and more out of anything else. Hey, baby doll, they come out good? It looks like every other time, baby. My wife gets her nails done, and I swear I can't. I don't know what she did unless you put glitter on them or something. Like, there's no way I'm going to be able to tell. But you got to act excited about it, guys. This is a life tip for you guys. Marriage pro tip. Wife goes and does her hair and her nails, and you better be excited when she comes home.
Wasn't one of your tricks in the past to take a picture of the day before or something?
And then when they ask you to take selfies, you better smile loud and proud. You gotta take 10 selfies because she's gonna go through every one of them and find the right one. You know what I mean? These are all things that I've learned in a couple years of marriage.
You got to start a new channel, secrets for successful marriages.
Listen to your wife. How's that? You're the one, you're married to her. She tells you she needs something. Listen to her, because when you tell her that you need something, she'll listen to you.
100%. 100%. Can't agree more.
It really is. And it really is that simple. Like, y'all are teammates. You ain't gonna be fighting with each other. Y'all are on the same team. You're not in competition with your wife. So she's your biggest cheerleader. You need to be her biggest cheerleader. She's your biggest supporter. You need to be her biggest supporter. You gotta be best friends, man. You gotta be best friends. Talk about everything and anything, and listen to them when they're talking. If you want them to listen to you, it's like we want all of these things from our spouse, but we're not willing to give them things that they want. It's kind of weird. So I'm like, why don't you do all of the things that she's asking of you? And then you'll be amazed how quick she is to do the things that you're asking for. And then boom, you're on one accord and you're off and running, bro. My parents were married for 54 years. Our parents just celebrated. They're about to celebrate 48 years of marriage. And that's the way they treated each other. Like, it's just like you live to please your spouse and they live to please you because you're a team, right? Like you're one, and that's what it's about. And this is way more important than anything we're talking about here on the charts, guys. For those of y'all that are married, or aspire to be married, don't live to please the world, man. Live to please that woman if you want to stay with that woman. If not, somebody else will please her, and you'll be on the cold real pissed off the rest of your life. So keep that in mind. Anyway, Uzi, I appreciate it, my man. I think that Tesla is a monster. I'm not excited to have to be buying shares at these levels. I really thought Tesla was going to go to 175 to 200 a couple of months ago when I first started this position, and I was going to have an opportunity to load up on some shares down there and feel real good about it, but it just didn't give me that opportunity.
Yeah, no, I mean it's so strong. It's crazy, this chart. And let me just do one more Fibonacci before I let you go. And let's go from the lows up to the current swing high. And price is not even able to get to the 23.6 right here. Price is basically fighting to get to the 23.6. So again, the bulls and the buyers they're stepping up. They're buying it every potential dip. And it's funny how the uptrend line that it's currently looking to maybe pull back to is going to coincide with that 23.6. So we might finally get that little bit of a pull back to that area, which would be again a place where the price could now use to propel to the upside. So yeah, man, looking good. I think you've got nice premiums on these trades, and that's the way to do it.
Couple million bucks, but I do need time to come off the clock. It's like if Tesla stays under, let's say it has a hard time getting over that 352 that I see right there.
Mm-hmm.
And if it takes like say 60 days, then I'm totally in the driver's seat on this thing. And then at that point I could get comfortable and go to like 500, 525, and then maybe even move up the cash secured or the short put up to 300 and rake in a shitload of premiums there, and eventually maybe be sitting in like 550, eventually 600. At that point, I do think that I'm on easy street. All this Kathy Wood stuff and all that, see me in 2030. Maybe like right now, dude. Like, get out of here. I just don't see it. It'd be cool if I was wrong, especially if I'm able to scoop up more shares. And then I'm about 3 weeks away, and I'm going to start selling covered calls on TSOL because those can generate 6 figures a month on the amount of shares that I have. And I'll be using those premiums to buy leaps. So I'm going to use the TSOL cover call premium to buy leaps on Tesla. And so to start, again, continuing to hedge to the upside, because I do see the writing on the walls. I thought all the risk was to the downside, and I still, to this right now, I still feel more nervous to the downside. But I mean, if I look at that chart, it's pretty damn obvious that the risk is to the upside. So we'll see how it goes, man. And who knows where it can go once it goes to all-time highs, because there's nothing resisting it over there, right? It's never been there before.
Exactly. I mean, 750 to 1,000 is definitely doable. No doubt.
Well, yeah, dude, man, like I said, the compensation packages, all this other stuff, et cetera, et cetera. But it's just like, I just know all those things take time, right? So I'm betting on 60, 90 days of a little up, a little down, tariff news, no tariff news. Like, I mean, we're in that chop right now. Like, that's what this market is right now. And then I feel like Uncle Jay's fighting Donald Trump, so that kind of helps me out on the short calls too in my mind. But we'll see. I'll feel more comfortable whenever I have at least 250,000 shares of TSOL, and I'm at least at 10,000 shares of Tesla. So there's 2,000 shares to go, and 150,000 more shares of the TSOL ETF, and then those will be printing a shitload of premiums on the short call side. But that's also a double-edged sword, because if those shares were to get called away, well, then I'd lose a huge portion of my hedge, right? So there's the gimmies and the gotchas, bro. That's what life is. There's always pros and cons.
No doubt, both sides.
Yeah. So again, I don't recommend this trade for anybody. This is just something that I'm playing, and I'm willing to deal with this shit for the next 5 years if I have to. And I'm perfectly okay with it, because I will eventually accumulate enough shares and leaps to be okay. But anyway, I got to run. Uzi, I appreciate you, my man. This is really, really good stuff. I love your charts. So clean. How did you get that whole color scheme going there, though? Was that just a Thinkorswim thing, or?
Yeah. Well, which color schemes? With the
You have like the orangey, reddish, and the green on the candles. And then did you pick the yellow and the orange, the little beads for the moving averages, or like was that something that Thinkorswim gives you to?
Yeah. You can pick all that. Yeah. So the little bead colors here, you can pick all these things. They have custom colors, whatever colors you want. You can pretty much custom it to what your eye likes to see. Down below here, I don't do anything with this. This is just from the loaded study that they offer. But up here, yeah, everything is configurable. You can change things around. You can, yeah, it's pretty cool. I love Thinkorswim. I've been with them for so long that I think it's the best out there. I know that Tasty Trade is pretty darn good too, but I think you're in a good place. You definitely are in a good place. Because the same guy that developed Thinkorswim developed Tasty Trade. So either way. But I do love Thinkorswim, and they have top-notch technical customer support. So that's really the most important thing. You ever have an issue, you want to talk about something that's going on, and make sure that something's right. You can get them on the phone almost 24 hours a day, and get a competent person on the phone that knows more than you. And I'm doing this 27 years, and they know. I get guys on the phone that have been doing it 30, 40 years. So that's good.
I agree, brother. I agree.
Yep. All right, man.
Anyway, Uzi, I appreciate you, my man. I am.
Yeah, my pleasure, TJ.
I'm actually placing a trade to buy more shares of Tesla right now.
We'll be doing some late night wheeling when you're up.
Just to keep hedging myself.
All right. Well, it's
picking up those deltas, baby. I'm picking up those deltas. But I'm like really on Tesla. Like, I mean, yeah, cool, buying leaves. That's all fine and dandy. But then again, I put myself in that time crunch, right? So we'll see how it goes, man. We'll see how it goes. Right. I look forward to continuing this journey, my man, with you. I'm not going to be on YouTube as much anymore, but I'm definitely hoping to keep this particular segment going. And then also we could do something on maybe on a late night every once in a while as well. That'd be cool. I just picked up 500
Yeah,
more shares.
I'm up late sometimes, so we could do that.
500 more shares of Tesla, so I'm up to 8,500. So there we go. That's where we're at. I hope it crashes. Have you ever heard of anybody buy 500 shares of Tesla and say, "I hope it crashes"? I'm different.
No, TJ, you are one of a kind, my friend.
I gotta run, man. TJ the Wheel Deal signing off as always. May your sky stay blue, stock green. Peace out. God bless you. Tesla, not
Peace,
TSL.
everybody.
I just bought Tesla. Peace out.
Take care, TJ.
Bye bye.